We begin with an intense and emotional morning in court as two young men accused in a deadly shooting at a Lawrence bar face a judge.
So at one point, family in court was seemingly caught off guard as prosecutors showed the video from the night of the shooting at the popular Jayhawk Cafe, also known as the Hawk in Lawrence. Now, that shooting happened a little over 3 weeks ago. 18-year-old suspects Caden Clem and Datron Daniel Strickland are accused in the shooting after they were initially kicked out of the bar. 18-year-old Aiden Knowles, 16-year-old Brady Clark were both shot. Knowles did not survive.
KCTV5's Morgan Rydell joins us live in Lawrence. Now, Morgan, a lot to unpack here after hours of witness testimony, which is rather unusual when this was a preliminary hearing.
It was, and we are on recess right now. This day is not even over. Clem and Daniel Strickland, they shared a courtroom for the first half of this preliminary hearing this morning. In total, 10 witnesses were called to the stands. That was friends of the victims, bar staff, even bar managers from the Hawk, and responding officers, plus a medic who was just on stand out here. Clem actually waived his right to the hearing about halfway through the morning here. The judge will have a trial arraignment for his felonies that he is facing in March. Daniel Strickland is still inside this courtroom now, currently with that recess. Before the end of today, though, the judge here is expected to decide on the next steps for possible bond. At one point during the state's calling of witnesses today, there were 3 videos, surveillance videos from the night of that shooting at the Hawk, at the bar that night. And it took many of these families were taken back seeing this. A lot of gasps happened in the room. The judge actually spoke with the state about outbursts, having to speak with those families about outbursts and warning the state that they need to give these families some warning before showing any more of those videos. Reporting live, Morgan Rydell, KCTV5 News.
Yeah, Morgan, I can't imagine showing up unknowing that that video was there, then seeing it played out in the courtroom. We appreciate that report.